Hello, everybody. How are we all doing? I am really excited to be bringing you this live today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jen Harrap, and I am a health and fitness coach, qualified personal trainer with nutrition qualifications. I've been doing this for quite a while now, and I am the founder of this wonderful Facebook group. And I love coming live in here to share my knowledge, my experience from a personal perspective, but also from working with countless people, especially women, on their health journeys. And a lot of people's journeys are about fat loss. So I'm just going to tag everyone here just in case people are wanting to come and watch live. If you're not watching live and you're watching on the replay, please just let me know that you're watching. Just say hello so that I know that you have been watching me, which is awesome. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about fat loss today because when I work with a lot of women, not all women, but a lot of women have a focus on fat loss. It's kind of hardwired into us, right? That we have to be a certain size, we have to be a certain weight, we have to look a certain way. And I do like to talk about getting away from that mindset, getting away from the mindset of this is what you have to look like. But I understand that it is hardwired and we're kind of stuck in this way, and that's completely fine. And during Scrap the Scales, we unwire that. Dewire it? I don't know what the word is, but we unravel that anyway. We unravel that mindset, but it takes a little while. And today I want to actually talk about how you can actually set yourself up for success in terms of fat loss, because we do work on fat loss in Scrap the Scales, but we also work on that mindset as well, and putting a bit more value on you and your health. But I'm going to give you some secrets today, and a lot of these secrets are to do with your mindset anyway, so I think you're going to find this quite useful, and I'm hoping it's going to make you think about how you treat yourself when it comes to your fat loss goals, because a lot of people are all into those quick fixes and it's not necessarily the right way to approach things. So I'm going to jump in right now. The key to not failing at your fat loss and never failing again is actually your mindset. And if you the kind of line that I want to put on here is, if you don't see yourself as a failure, you won't be. So if you feel like you fail at your fat loss goals over and over and over and over again, you're seeing yourself as a failure, and you're just constantly saying, I'm failing, I'm not doing very well, or I'll do better next time. That isn't a thing with fat loss. That isn't a thing with your health. It's all a continual journey. And what I want you to do is start seeing it as a continual journey. And I'm going to break it down in this live today to help you understand what I mean by that. So firstly, I'm going to give you some practical things that I need you to get in place today to be able to crack on with your fat loss journey. So number one is setting yourself up for success. So this is what you need to do. You need to make sure we set ourselves up for success. And we do this a lot. I've done this kind of live training in here quite a lot about goal setting and ensuring that you are setting yourself up for success in the first place and not setting yourself up for failure straight away. So I'm going to recap on those things. Do you have a plan in place? And I know some people are like, well, I'm a go with the flow type of person. I don't really like planning so much. All good, but if you want to be successful in your fat loss, you need to have some form of plan. And it doesn't have to be something rigid. You don't have to write everything down if you don't want to. It does help the majority of people, but you do need to have an idea of what you're doing. Is this plan achievable for you? So this is why you're all here, right? Because the plans that you've done previously have not been achievable for you. Those plans have all been learnings. So I personally have been on lots of different things, ideas, strategies in terms of my health and fitness, in terms of fat loss, and sometimes I haven't achieved them all, and that's because I've set myself up probably a little bit too high at the start. There might be some other reasons which I'll go into, but at the start I've probably gone a little bit too hard on myself. So I want you to think about, is what you're going to do achievable for you? And I'm going to break down two things, but really there's only one thing that you need to focus on from a fat loss perspective. And this doesn't necessarily mean the other things that you might have in mind are not important. And I'm going to talk about the other important things. But the number one thing that you need to get sorted with your fat loss is your food. And that is a blanket approach. You need your food. If you're thinking I'm going to outrun my fat loss, I'm just going to run it and do all this cardio, it's proven that cardio doesn't actually help with fat loss as much as food does. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. If you think you're able to continue eating the same way as you have been and you're continually putting weight on, you're not going to be able to lose fat in that respect by just going for a walk or just doing cardio. So number one, get that food in place. But let's go back to setting yourself up for success. So you need to be setting yourself up for success with your food. This does not include starving yourself. This does not include fasting for 2 to 3 days a week. This does not include fasting for more than 20 hours in a day if you've never done fasting before. This does not include cutting all carbohydrates out. This is just setting yourself for success in a way that works for you. So don't think about any quick fixes. Don't think about diets. Yeah, we don't want to think about diets. We want to think about your personal eating habits. What are you doing right now that could be detrimental to your fat loss journey? And I want you to be open and honest. So pop it in the comments what you think you're doing right now in terms of your food that is detrimental to your fat loss journey. So for me, I can use an example for myself at the moment. I've let sugar creep back in the last week or so, and I've also had alcohol over the weekend. I'm not going to kick myself for that, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit. But those things are not going to help me, and I hold my hands up and I know that. They're not going to help me in my journey. So I'm holding my hands up and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to reduce my sugar. I'm not going to cut it out. I'm just going to reduce it back again, and I won't drink every single day of the weekend this weekend. There you go. So those are actionable steps that I'm going to take to help me work towards my fat loss. The next things that I want to go over, which aren't the be all and end all, but will help. So managing stress and then managing other barriers that come into play. So managing stress is really important. We often find that if you're stressed out, you let everything go. You're not going to look after yourself. So I want you to manage your stress. How are you going to do this? If you're a stressed out person, you need to plan in some stress relieving activities. What other barriers might come up? So if you don't know your barriers, that's completely fine. They can creep in. We know this. Life kind of throws us curveballs from time to time. But if you've got some barriers up front that I know coming, so for example, I can talk about what I've just talked about, my alcohol content last weekend. I went away and I did an event with some friends from the gym. We went and did a 10-kilometer obstacle course race. I wanted to celebrate after with some gins, and then me and my husband had a couple of nights away where we just enjoyed our own company and we wanted a few drinks. And I knew this was coming up, so that would have been a barrier to my fat loss, and I knew that wasn't going to be, I'm probably not going to be losing any fat that week or potentially that weekend, depending on how well I performed in the week running up to it. Probably not at all that week, because I think about what I'm doing to aid my performance in the obstacle course race was eating a little bit more. So that week, all good. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to allow that to stress me out. I can be on it with my plan the rest of the time during the time frame. The third thing that I want to talk about is exercise. So I already said that food is the most important thing. If you don't have the time to exercise, or it's going to add unnecessary stress if you're not currently consistent with your exercise, don't even think about it. If your main goal is fat loss, I don't even want you to think about exercise. However, if you are a highly stressed person, I would recommend that you do think about exercise in terms of managing your stress. And this could literally just be a nice gentle stretch, a little bit of light yoga, maybe going for a light walk, something like that. But if you are pretty good with your exercise perspective, I would recommend, but you can't fit everything in that you want to, but you are trying to decide what the best exercise is for fat loss, I would recommend that you focus on building some muscle. So this is your weight training in the gym. Drop that cardio for now until you got to a place where you want to from a fat loss perspective, unless you find that cardio is really good for a stress reliever. So you've got to balance everything out, but you really want to prioritize building that muscle. And the reason for this is because the more muscle that you have, the higher your body has to work to be able to burn off fat, which means that you're burning more calories, if that makes sense. So if you have more muscle mass on your body, you're burning more calories at rest, which means that you're going to drop the fat faster. But I'm going to reiterate, if that stresses you out thinking about building muscle, all you need to do is focus on your food right now. Get that food right. So that's kind of section 1 that I've talked about. I want you to first get that plan in place and think about your food. Optional added benefits if you don't feel like it's going to be too much for you. Think about managing your stress, and exercise, focus on building some muscle. Second, so number 2, the next block is measuring for success. So we're only talking about fat loss right now. We're not talking about any other health indicators. I do personally like to measure other things like energy levels, stress management, potentially your cycle, that kind of thing. But we're just talking about fat loss today. What you need to measure are these 3 things. Your weight on the scales, only because I want you to prove to yourself that it's not actually necessarily the best form of losing fat, best form of measuring the loss of fat. But it is a motivator for some people to see that number go down a little bit. But I also want you to take some body measurements. So we want to think about our chest, our waist, our hips, our bums, our thighs, our bums, and our arms as well, and measure those, because you'll be seeing the centimeters or inches depending on what unit of measurement you use drop off you more so than anything that'll show up on the scales. If the scales are going down quite a lot, your measurements are guaranteed to go down even more quicker. And then photos. I know people don't like taking photographs of themselves, but I would really encourage you to take a photograph of yourself once a week and keep going until you've hit your deadline. The reason for this is so that you can actually compare how you've changed. When you see those numbers, the scales and the measurements that we just talked about, they don't really mean too much to you. They're just numbers, and it's a bit like, yeah, all right there. But actually seeing the numbers go down and then seeing the results in those photographs is pretty damn amazing. If you feel comfortable, you might want to take a video instead, but what I would do is just take weeklies on all of those, same time, same day, every time of the week, so once a week. So that's the second thing. The third is have a deadline, and that's it. Simple as have a deadline. So I have just finished up on a 30-day fat loss journey for myself, and my deadline was Monday this week. The reason for this is because what I want you to do at that deadline is assess how you've gone. I don't want you to worry about not making as much progress as you could have made, but I still want you to have an assessment, and even if you haven't dropped any fat at all, you can assess the situation and then add in a new deadline with another plan to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. You're not just completely giving up, and you can move forward with the idea that you've already made some changes in terms of your plan. And then I just want to go back to my initial point. So my initial point is not seeing yourself as a failure. So now that you know that you need all these 3 things, set yourself up for success with a plan, make sure you've got your measuring of success tools, and then have a deadline in place for those things. I want you to have a think about how you can not see yourself as a failure. So what successes have you had? And you might be like, well, I haven't made any because I haven't lost weight. I can't fit in those jeans anymore. All I've done is eat takeaways for the last. That's completely fine. But I want you to see yourself as building a house. So you are yourself as building a house. To start off with, if you have never been that successful on a fat loss journey, where you currently are, is you're building the foundations. And the foundations is that knowledge. So you're having that base. And that base is going to be quite heavy. There's going to be things in there that you're learning. Anything that hasn't really worked that well, you can squish right down. It can be compacted to create that solid base. Once you start finding ways that work for you in terms of fat loss. So this is going to be that food, it's going to be measuring that success, it's going to have that deadline. You're going to start seeing the building blocks coming above the foundation. So this is your knowledge and this is your successes that you're building above on the foundations. But in terms of your building, what you might find is that we have some bad weather and the building work stops. And this could be your barriers that come into play. So my personal barriers from this last fat loss journey is that I was noticing that I have had a lot of fatigue. I was noticing that my fat loss journey was a bit slower than what it had been in the past. And there were just other symptoms that were coming up in regards to my own health condition. So I headed off to the doctors and I had my blood tests done, and what turned out is that my thyroid levels were off, which is my medical condition. So my thyroid levels are up, were up, so I had to get my meds so I could bring them down. My B12 and my iron levels were low as well. So straight away I had 3 things there that I was learning about myself as an individual, of why I couldn't get there. And that's my plan. That's the bad weather. The bad weather's come in and I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to knuckle down, understand what's going on in this bad weather, and then have a way of getting out of the bad weather. But now I have this way. I've got my supplements, I have my medication change. I am back on track with my fat loss because I am going on. Obviously with things like that, so the medical stuff, or if you've had bereavements, or there's the school holidays, or whatever it might be, it might take a little bit of time for you to come out of that. So for example, for me, it will take about 6 weeks to get out of that. I'm already about 2.5, 3 weeks in, so I've got another 3.5 or 4 weeks-ish of getting everything all leveled out again, and then I can go, right, okay, I'm out of this bad weather now. I'm British, you know, so we always have bad weather, so I'm used to that. But I'm out of this bad weather now. Now I know what I can do to keep going with this. But you don't want to completely give up during that time. So whenever the bad weather is, just keep trying to focus on that food. It's not going to be harmful to you to keep focusing on your nutrition. It just never is, you know. It's just never going to be a bad thing. So I want you to think about that bad weather, and the bad weather doesn't last. So what you'll need to do in that bad weather, those barriers that are coming through, is find a way of just getting yourself back to that foundation level, or to the last brick that you laid in terms of your successes. It won't fall down. You've already set that fantastic foundation, so your house is not going to fall down. It's just going to be there. And at the same time, you can think about it as a building repair as well. So something might go wrong. You might have a virus, you might have an illness, you might be made redundant from work, something might be thrown at your building, and you might just need some building repairs done as well. So just have a think about life. Your fat loss journey isn't just this solid stage in life. It's not going to just be like 2 weeks, done, sweet, I've lost all the weight that I needed to. It's a continual thing. And the reason I'm saying this is that you might actually get to a weight or a body composition that you're happy with and you can maintain, and you're in this position where maintenance is super easy for you, and that's awesome, and we're really proud of you. But your fat loss journey actually isn't your fat loss journey. Your fat loss journey is your health journey, and you're continually learning. And you're never going to stop learning from a health perspective, because if you do stop, you're going to have some form of bad weather come your way. Especially with us women. Our bodies change throughout the whole of our life. Our bodies obviously change every 28 days. We have these cycles, but our bodies change throughout our whole life. Our hormonal panels change, and this is why we need to continue listening to ourselves and continually working on our health. So it's our health journey, not a fat loss journey, but I'm going to label it as fat loss, and I've given you the tools today in terms of how you can move forward with your fat loss. It's all a mindset game though. So if you don't see yourself as a failure, you're never going to be a failure. There's always going to be successes along the way. You're building those bricks, you're building that foundation of your house, and you're going forward. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. It doesn't matter if you're in your 70s or 80s and you're just starting out. Doing something for your health is always going to be beneficial to you. If you're a bit like, whoa, what just happened there, Jen? Don't you worry too much about it. I can help you out and scrap the scales for only $4. But by the way, there's only 5 spots left at that introductory offer. So if you do want to come and join for $4 only, I will help you with your plan for your nutrition. It will be a lot more specific than what I've just talked about because we'll do a deeper dive into you and your life. I will give you some exercise to do, but they'll be a lot easier than what you think. It's not going to be a super hard workout. We work on your mindset and those barriers straight away. I have so many different hypnotherapy and brainwave recordings that will help rewire any barriers that you might have in your noggin. So if you would like to join Scrap the Skills, you're very welcome to, but please get in quick, otherwise you will lose out on that $4 introductory offer, which is pretty damn good. And yeah, I think setting yourself up for success and not seeing yourself as a failure should be your mantra going forward. Any questions? Let me know and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye everyone!